really appreciate all these hands and the brains which go with the hands to help, both in the unit but all over the world, because we have a lot of partners also in the United States. So it's a great group experience, and actually come back in my last slide. It's not only a scientific experience. Anyway, so we have seen in the morning first results. This was more of the scientific part of it. But I want to do is talk a little bit about the organization and the challenges in the organization, which we have and which we face. There may be some secrets unveiled after all, but we'll see. But let me repeat one slide which I showed in the morning, and you'll see why I do this. Obviously, the background for SHARE is population aging. That's how we started. And you already mentioned that in Germany in 2030, when maybe I finally retire, there will 50 plus will be more than 50% of the population. So this is actually serviced the majority of the population. We also had, somebody said to me this morning that Europe has aged since the beginning of SHARE on average by 3 years. Well, if I look around the principal and country team leaders, well, we have aged by 13 years, right? It's been a while. Now, I remember when we started, we have this funny expression, whether a person is age eligible or not, which is code for being 50 or over. Well, some of us have become age eligible since then, including the PI of the study. I stressed in the morning that population aging, and everybody knows, is one of the big challenges of the 21st century. The point I want to make, and really stress, and it cannot be stressed often enough, this challenge is not only pensions and healthcare. This is what you read in the newspaper, and hopefully it slowly sinks in. It's also economic growth and living standards. If you imagine that there are more retired people than working people, you just cannot provide the living standards we have been used to. So there's a real challenge to the way we live, and that challenge is more serious in those countries where demographics change very quickly, in Italy and in Germany, less so in Scandinavia and in France, but it's a real challenge. The other one, which has been prominently in some television series, there was actually a 3-part television series in Germany. I remember a similar one in the United States, essentially called War Between Generations. And there is this vision that when things get hard in terms of living standards, pensions, taxes, and so forth, the generation will be pitched against each other, and we'll have war between the generations. So something to worry about is really social cohesion in times when the entire structure of the age structure of a population changes. We can actually already see with SHARE data that this kind of vision is wrong. We do not see that there is less social cohesion in those regions which are aged more. Again, regional analysis helps there. But that is important to know, because there's so many myths about aging that falsifying this myth is an important public duty. Now, what I also stressed in the morning is that there's an interaction between aging and the financial crisis. And it's, I claim that it's not a coincidence that the countries in the South have particularly high debt burdens, and part of this is generated by pensions. Very simply, pensions are in some countries so generous that they contribute to these huge public expenditures and have contributed to the crisis. And that cannot get better if there's an aging crisis. So one really has to see particularly the debt crisis, the current debt crisis, sovereign debt crisis, in connection with pension systems and also healthcare systems. That also shows you that what SHARE is delivering. You nicely talked about benchmarking, monitoring, comparing across countries. That this is a genuine EU text. This cannot be done by a nation by itself. There is something which, you always hear this, that the sum is more than the union is more than the sum of the parts. That is very often sounds like loose talk, but here is an example where this is really true. You have something which is over and above the sum of the member states and can use things which otherwise could not be done, and share tries to contribute to that. Now, of course, having some sponsors sitting here, they already know that this means it will have some financial consequences, but we'll talk about this later. One final remark, age 50 plus is a little bit like a magnifying lens. What has gone wrong in life, what was successful in life, you do see in old age, much clearer than in younger ages. So also if you compare welfare policies across countries, age 50 is and plus, looking at the second part of life is really helpful because it shows the accumulation of welfare state inventions. Okay, there's also one slide more, but then it's all new slides, I promise, which you have seen this morning. But as Martina already said, we love this slide. And this is because you see that the number of users using shared data is increasing every year. Now, if you look closely, it's not linear, but it actually increases. So the speed of users is getting faster. It's not exponential yet, but it's definitely super linear. And we're very proud, and I think this is the main raison d'etre for Share. There are no users why do it. Obviously we have users. There are two reasons besides being proud to show this graph once again. One is because we have quite some number of applications, but one specific one which is sort of put in the among the readers and actually on the internet today, right? So we have printed books, but the main way to actually distribute this book will be over the internet. It's one of the projects which we do together with the Max Planck Society to have open access book, quote unquote, printed. It's one of the experiments we try to see how this works. Now, I want to use that opportunity actually to give a book to those who actually sponsor. So this is the European Commission. Just make a little detour. This is the, you can't really read it, it's too small. This is the distribution of researchers who actually work on shared data. And Germany is number one, but number two is the United States. So it's a non-European country. Of course, the United States has a lot of researchers, but because there's something about the shared data that it's so highly accepted in the United States. So this is our second most. Well, if you take it per capita, then things change a little bit. Italy is number 3. Number 4 is the Netherlands. And obviously the Netherlands is a much smaller country than Germany, has fewer researchers. So per capita, actually it's the Netherlands using the data the most. Then comes the United Kingdom. And again, that's not a member of SHARE in the formal sense, although we very closely work with ENSA. But just to show that this is a data set which is used quite often. Just as a, the countries at the end, the last one shown here is Japan, and then we cut it off because it's more than 20 users or so. We have 3 users from Northern Korea. Interesting. I don't know what they make of it. How do they get it? Okay, so one of the examples of what Share can do, I want to show. Okay, this is this graph here. This is an idea which has started in Belgium, actually with Sergio, who had the idea that one should look at cognition, cognitive abilities, and retirement, and see how retirement actually affects cognition. That's a very difficult question, because obviously those who have lower cognition also retire early. But you want the direction the other way around. You want to see whether retirement actually has a causal effect on cognitive abilities. And Sergio and his team actually found there's a direct causal relation. This work was picked up. This is now drawn from a publication in an American journal, written by an American and a German, and they sort of publicized the work of Sergio. And this is sort of the easiest to see the graph. So on the one axis, does the laser work or not? So on the horizontal axis, you have the percentage not working for the pig in the 60 to 64-year-old age range. So here, nobody at age 60 to 64 works. Here, 70% of the people are actually working. So this is sort of a conventional index which you use in labor market analysis if you look at the retirement behavior. Now then here we do the average cognitive score. This is something like out of 10 words, how many can you remember immediately and after 10 or 20 or 30 minutes? So it's some memory ability. Now the interesting thing is to combine the two. And what you see is actually remarkable. You have in those countries where people work a lot more in age 60 to 64 range, you have much higher cognitive scores than in countries where the labor force participation is low. Now, if you really put it grossly, retirement makes dumb, right? And as a slight warning. Now, obviously, one has to be very careful and sort of to understand which of the effect you see here goes in one direction, which goes in the other direction. The interesting thing is if you use pension policies, then you can actually identify the direction from retirement to cognition. No country changes retirement policy, at least not in the short run, because of cognitive abilities of the people. But if you have a sudden change in retirement ages, you actually do find a reaction in cognition. And that is, then you know that the causation can only go only one way. Now, why is that so? Well, first, work in itself may stimulate you. At least some work does. Our work certainly does. That's one aspect. The other aspect is social inclusion. Now, this sounds like another keyword, but that has to be taken seriously. You see immediately that the number of people in your networking and social network is actually being reduced very quickly after retirement. So you lose your colleagues. You may have hated those colleagues, particularly your boss, but it was somebody to hate, somebody to after all, fight with, and that keeps you busy, also your mind. So we can actually show that the social networks, the size of the social networks are one of the causal mechanisms behind this graph. Why do I tell you this? Now, first, it's really interesting for public policy. Second, we combine a health measure, mental health actually, economics, retirement, and social networks. Three sort of domains which usually don't talk to each other, actually hate each other. So this, I think, is a very good example where interdisciplinary cooperation makes a lot of sense. Now, having said that, all the problems of interdisciplinary international cooperation are obviously also present for a research infrastructure like SHARE. We are now a formal, actually a legal personality with currently a fairly low participation. If we count everybody, including Switzerland as observer and Slovenia and Israel, which will exceed probably as a matter of 1 month, then there are 9 members out of the 20 countries involved in SHARE in ERIC. So it's a glass half full, and I think that's good news. But the other half obviously also has to join. ERIC was a real help for us. It gave us a legal framework. And the more we do, and the more difficult the data collection gets, the more we realize that having a stable legal foundation on international level is important. It makes it complicated. For example, I'm halfway in the Max Planck Society, obviously, as a director, but I'm also at the same time a managing director of an international organization. And sometimes there are sort of legal things to work out. And I'm great that we have so much help by the general administration of the Max Planck Society. It also gives us a long-term perspective. It goes to 2024, and we have streamlined procurement rules. That sounds like a triviality and a boring kind of side issue. It's not. Procurement is very, very hard for a survey like this. You'll see in a minute a picture. We hire every wave about 2,200 interviewers. And doing this, spend a lot of money on this. Having a legal framework which makes that easy is very helpful. Okay. So the organizational challenges are quite a bit. The core of management are 5 nodes, and someone will recognize this is Munich as the coordination. Then economics is coordinated from Venice/Padua. The social networks actually in Israel, Hebrew University, health in Odense in Denmark, and all the logistics, the IT logistics is done in Tilburg, Netherlands. So this is the core where we actually do most of the work. You see it's by no means only in Munich. Then we have 20 countries with about 150 scientists which we pay, which are on our payroll. Then we have the independent survey agencies, which then hire independent interviewers. They're usually freelancers, so they don't follow orders. We have to convince them, we have to write contracts. It's a very complicated governance. We tried this complicated kind of organizational setup, which still is supposed to have a synchronized schedule, centralized database management, a common technical infrastructure, and so forth, based on decentral and a very complex time scale. That is a challenge. And I have to say that I spent my time essentially on management, not on research. That is something which has its negative sides. I'm still grateful for all the funders of us, of course. We already mentioned them. We get about, right now it's a little bit less, but in the beginning it was way more than half by the European Union. We get about 15% by Germany as a country. We get about a little bit less than 10% from the United States, and the rest is then very diffuse, now essentially the countries. So the harmonization doesn't really work. This is the schedule, actually, that was wave 4. And you see this is the beginning of the survey, the black one is the end of the survey, and it's not a harmonized schedule. And this is so far significant as things happened, you mentioned we had the crisis, and the crisis really happened at certain dates. And it makes a difference whether it's pre or post Lehman Brothers, or pre and post certain events in the sovereign debt crisis. So we have to be very careful, and I wish we could align these schedules more. Why cannot we? Because in some countries we just have to wait for money. And in some countries the money is there. Czech Republic is a great case, where we have the money from 2024. Germany is a great case. But in other countries, it's in Germany, we say from the hand to the mouth. And sometimes that takes a while. Okay, so we fight for sustainability. For the current fifth wave, the news is, again, it's more than half the glass full, and that's fine. So 13 countries have secure funding out of the 20. We have made a decision that the British Isles will have their own surveys, so Ireland will get out of share, but it will be part of what will be called the British Isles Survey, which is England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and the Republic of Ireland. For some reason, Wales is not part of it. So they will have a tighter coordinated survey. It makes no sense for us to sort of dominate Ireland, but they should have more comparability within the British Isles. Poland has an in-between wave, so it was in between 4 and 5. We try to hope to actually get Spain, Denmark, Greece, and Portugal funded, but we are not yet there. And these are four very different countries. Now, in 3 countries, it's obvious that they have problems due to the crisis. Denmark is not hard hit by the crisis. In Denmark, we have a problem with a general decision by the leading social research foundation. They decided not to fund infrastructures in social sciences. I think it's a crazy decision. Makes no sense. With social sciences moving more and more into the direction hard sciences has moved, but that's the decision they made. So there's no way, there's just no instrument to actually fund Denmark out of Danish funds. We tried to get medical money, but they, rightfully so, argued that this is essentially social science project. And I'm afraid we will not get a survey in Hungary for reasons which have to do with money, at one, but also with the political situation. And that's, again, the lesson to draw. That's also why I emphasized the European added value so much in the beginning. And then we get countries who are against evidence. Well, and I'm not talking about the Republicans in the United States, which are also against evidence. There's a move which is particularly against evidence-based medicine in the United States. But it's in the middle of Europe, a core country of Europe. Anyway, so I think not only the European debt crisis is a genuine European challenge, but shares that. We try to get EU added value, and I think this is what we can really contribute in a very positive sense. So the outlook. I think aging in the financial debt, euro, blah 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 crisis. There's still a lot more to happen to find out, not only in aging but also in the crisis. My own feeling, as an economist, is like Germany will get down from their currently 85, almost 90% debt levels down to 60% below the ceiling. Will last about 20 years. So we have one generation which will work on reducing debt levels, and will be in an abnormal state of affairs. So we'll have a roller coaster to go in terms of economics, in terms of the implications of these economics, which we have seen so clearly this morning, that it has health effects. Mortality in certain areas of Greece doubled, and primarily because of suicides. And the suicide rate has skyrocketed. So there is, on a sad note, very much to find, but also on a good note, where we see the welfare state interventions, which happened in the 70s and 80s, being fruitful for, well, my generation, when we actually are aging. And I'm very much looking forward to see how this exponential increase of user numbers is also reflected in exponential increase in publications. And we already have seen that the kind of publications which we have generated this way are much more complex and much more interesting than the publications we had in the beginning. This is because the data gets richer each wave.